Okay, my little witchlings, it has been a while, but Cascada is back in action. I finally got my altar all set up. I just want to show it to you really quick before we get into the video. So just a quick rundown. Got my crystals there, my air stuff, God, spirit, goddess, water, fire, and then some things in the center. And I have some stuff up here for Hecate, other deities, my little spirit animals, another crystal, and my amethyst there. And that I'm going to use to put spare change in for trips to Goodwill, Witchy Shop, what have you. And again, I have my crystals around the candle, but I am going to create some space and we're going to get into it. Hello, my little darlings. So this video might be long, but we are going to be talking about using our craft while respecting the law. Now I know there's probably some people in the community that practice the craft that don't feel that way and want to stick it to the man and have anarchist views, and I will admit there are some stupid laws, but there are also some that are in place for a good reason, especially conservation laws to protect our natural resources, plants, animals, minerals, that sort of thing. And that is what we are going to be talking about today, on how to practice our craft in an environmentally sustainable way. Okay, and this is a big thing for me because even before getting into the craft, I've always been really big with conservation and preservation, because I realize that there are some things on this earth that are very sensitive, and once it's all gone, it can't come back, or it's not easy to bring back. And there are some natural extinction events, but most of it within the past few hundred years has been because of humans. Which is why I am a big supporter of people being able to hunt for food, not poaching or anything like that. Just because with conservation efforts, you do need to have population control, especially with human encroachment onto habitats, because if the population, say one population of animal gets too out of control, it can eat all the food sources for other animal species that will then move elsewhere or die off because they can't survive because this one animal species is taken over, which a good example is deer, because there are some places where they heavily restricted hunting, especially in the area where I'm at. For a while, hunting was restricted, and it was really hard to get permits and stuff, and they finally changed it about 20 years ago, because there were so many deer that they were actually inbreeding and spreading down genetic abnormalities, and they were starving to death because you would drive around and just see deer laying up against buildings just starving to death. And especially in more urban areas, where once you had farmland and you have suburban type settings coming out. Luckily, where we live, we have 5 acres and we're surrounded by farmland, which hopefully shouldn't get developed, and there is a small housing development, but most animals, they can go around undisturbed. We have deer, foxes, a whole bunch of different birds. Okay, so getting into it, I am first going to be talking about plants and which ones are endangered or at risk of being endangered, even though they may or may not be on the registry. It's just they're very rare in the wild, and people who live in the area where the plants come from, they are noticing a big reduction in it. I just need to get my Palo Santo. Okay. So as everybody knows, I did a quick little live before about Palo Santo. And it is very close to going extinct because the demand for it is so high, with New Age becoming more popular. And there's people that still use it that apparently don't know. But this Palo Santo, I've actually had my little stash of it for about a year. And this is the only stick that I've used so far. As you can see, I haven't really burnt it down that much. It still smells really great. And white sage. It's not on the endangered species list for plants, but according to local conservationists and environmentalists and Native Americans, it should be, because of illegal poaching. Because it actually is illegal to gather white sage without having proper permits or getting permission from people who own the land. Now, one thing I will have to say is there actually are nurseries, if you look online, that they grow their own desert sage, so it doesn't impact the native wild population. And you can still buy Palo Santo, just try to limit it very, very, very much and try to savor what you have, because there are other things that you can get to smudge with. But go online and look for organizations and companies who are ethically collecting the Palo Santo. Because there are only about, I don't know if it's just in one region of South America and Central America that it's talking about, or if it's the trees overall. But I read somewhere that there's only about 250 mature trees. This isn't trees in total, it's just mature trees that, you know, are ready to die and fall over. There's only 250 of them. Because legally, the only way you can collect Palo Santo is once the tree dies and falls over, or say a branch falls off of it, and it has to sit and age on the forest floor for about 5 years. And as far as the sacredness of Palo Santo, if you just go to your New Age shop and buy it, it kind of gets rid of the ceremonial purpose, because you're actually supposed to, it's to have the sacredness of it. It's supposed to be collected by shamans and gifted to you. But these programs of Palo Santo is collected by shamans, so it has that. But that's one thing that you need to check with whatever the brand is that your local New Age shop is selling it, or just get it online from the sustainable places, and it might only be like where you get a stick or two, to see if it is collected ethically. And the same thing with white sage, there's actually the nurseries, as I said, and there are Native American companies that will sell it. I do know that there is a big issue with cultural appropriation and using white sage. I do have Native heritage. My family, there are some things that we do to try and bring back some of the Native things, because a lot of it was lost because of whitewashing, because when my great-grandmother was alive and her Native family, it wasn't legal or socially acceptable to practice your Native customs. And it probably went back further than that, because in the 1800s, when the Native Americans were forced out west, some chose to stay here and they just assimilated into white society, converting to Christianity and leaving their traditions behind. So, but I'm just going to read off a list of herbs and different plants that are currently endangered that are used in witchcraft. And now again, some of these you can look at nurseries, because obviously they grow the plants themselves and they're not harvesting them from the wild. So here it goes. So we have American ginseng. Now in West Virginia, where I live, you can actually collect ginseng one time a year, but there are a few states where it is illegal to collect it at all, and it varies by state on whether it's endangered or not, but that's another thing. Bloodroot, black cohosh, blue cohosh, echinacea, eyebright, false unicorn root, golden seal, lady slipper orchid, lomatium, osha, peyote, sandalwood, slippery elm, sundew, trillium, true unicorn root, Venus flytrap, Virginia snake root, wild yam, and things to watch are arnica, butterfly weed, cascara sagrada, chaparro, elephant tree, Ganeshan, gold thread, kava kava, lobelia, maidenhair fern, Maya apple, Oregon grape, partridge berry, pink root, pipicewa, ramps, spikenard, stone root, steam orchid, turkey corn, white sage, wild indigo, yerba mansa. And there are a few other things that I listed here too that weren't in this list that I found on Wikipedia. That is Cumberland rosemary, Florida false rosemary, Appalachicola rosemary, Etona rosemary, and yerba santa. Yerba santa is actually endangered. Pretty much any desert plant that grows west of the Rockies is going to be on a watch list or an endangered list, just because in the desert it is very hard for things to grow and get established. But there are some things, I'm not saying that you can't get these things, but make sure you're getting it from a sustainable source, because there are nurseries where you can get these things. And other things that aren't in this, there's certain milkweed species that are endangered. You can actually go online to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and look at the whole list of plants endangered in the United States. There's various cactuses, ferns, a lot of plants from Hawaii are considered endangered. So if all else fails, go to your local nursery, grow things yourself, forage things from your own yard. And now another thing with foraging, watch where you forage things from. You know, making sure that you're not going onto private property, because again, that can bring trespassing charges, or also you can deal with property owners that aren't very pleasant. I think it's a safety issue. Or also too, if you go into, say, a national or state forest, some places have restrictions that you can't take anything from the national forest or anything like that, because all wildlife and plants are considered protected species in that area. And collecting public parks, it doesn't hurt to ask, especially if it's something that they have an abundance of. If it's a plant, that they might not like you messing with, because they actually do pay a lot of money for that. And depending on the town that you're in, they could also charge you with theft, and you can get banned from parks. Or if there's a business that has plants, you know, you can always go inside and ask, you know, can I, you know, cut a couple of leaves or whatever off that won't completely destroy the plant and you can't tell. But also too, collecting from like public parks and near power lines or on the side of the road, you want to be careful, because they do spray pesticides and herbicides that are obviously not toxic to the plants if they're still growing and they spray that, but it can be toxic to humans. So that's one thing I would watch for, which is why it's almost better to just grow things yourself or get it from a nursery, especially if you can get it from someplace that's organic. But a lot of nurseries anyways, they really won't spray pesticides and things on the plants, just because they can really damage the plants, especially if you have a nursery that really cares about their plants. And another thing I want to talk about is the Migratory Bird Act. I know feathers are a big thing in our practice. I have this one. I got it from a new age shop. The tip of it is dyed. This isn't a real eagle feather. And then I have these and some peacock feathers that I got from Hobby Lobby. These are all legally obtained. And then I have some bird feathers down at the barn that some of our pigeons left for me. So I know there's a lot of people who are into foraging and they won't buy feathers. But here's the thing, with the Migratory Bird Act, it's actually illegal to possess feathers. So if you're going into the woods to look for feathers and you don't know what you're looking at, and I mean, if you're keeping it, I mean, it's not really going to hurt anything, but I'm just saying it's illegal. But if you're collecting them and then selling them, that's something that I don't agree with, because it's actually illegal per the Migratory Bird Act to collect feathers, disturb the eggs, the nest, moving the nest, disturbing the birds in any way. So if you absolutely need feathers, see if there's someone that you know that has chickens or peacocks or parrots or other birds, because birds do shed their feathers so that they can grow new ones in, and there are some that they molt certain times of the year. And I'm sure they'll be more than happy for you to go out there and see if you can find some feathers, or go to a craft store and get some feathers, because feathers for birds are basically like hair for us. So I have a couple of lists here. So birds that are safe to get feathers from are pheasants, most pigeons, ruffed grouse, turkeys, quail, chickens, bob whitebirds, Eurasian collared doves, house sparrows, the mute swan, greater prairie chickens, the house crow, peacocks, and other livestock birds. Now, if it's like a duck in the park, leave it alone, but obviously you can own ducks and other certain types of fowl. So I just need to find my cursor. I'm reading these lists on my laptop. Okay. So bear with me as I read this list. This is the alphabetical listing of migratory bird species protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act as of December 2nd, 2013. Centaur, Akaki, Akipa, Akialoa, Akiapalawu, Akakiki, Akohikoi. I think some of these are Hawaiian birds. Yeah. Alua Hio. I apologize if I'm butchering these names. I'm not a native Hawaiian speaker. Albatrosses. Black-browed, black-footed, Lasian, light-mantled, short-tailed, shy, wandering, yellow-nosed. A makahi, which is a Hawaiian bird. Angahinga, an ani, which is groove-billed or smooth-billed. Anianaulu, Apapane, Auklet, Avoset, bean goose, beardless, tyrannolant, rose-throated Bacard, American black-laced shrinks and yellow bitterns, common blackhawks, blackbirds in the species brewers, redwing, rusty, tawny-shouldered, tricolored, yellow-headed, yellow-shouldered, eastern mountain and western bluebirds, red-flanked blue-tails birds, blue-throat birds, bobolink birds, blue-footed brown-masked and red-footed booby birds, bramblings, brants, bufflehead, bullfinches, Eurasian and Puerto Rican, bunting, blue, gray, indigo, little lark, lazuli, mackays, painted pallas, pine, reed, rustics. No. Okay, I was going to go through and read this whole thing, but there's 53 pages. You can go online to the U.S. Forest Service and see this, but I'm just going to go through the list and read off common birds that most people know, unless you're a birder. Then some of these you'll know. Cardinals. You can't have feathers from them. Chickadee birds. Condor, California condors. Cranes. Common cranes, sandhill cranes, whooping cranes. Crows. American fish, Hawaiian, Mariana, Northwestern, Tamaulipas, white-necked, cuckoo birds, dipper birds, doves, Inca birds, mourning, white-tipped, white-winged, Ensenada, ducks, American black, eastern spot-billed, falcated, harlequin, Hawaiian, Lasian, long-tailed, masked, mottled, Muscovy, Pacific black, ring-necked, ruddy, tufted wood, any and all eagles, egrets, falcons, finches, American flamingos, more falcons again, hawks, fruit doves, goldfinches, Geese. Barnacle, Canada, Emperor, Greater White, Hawaiian, Lesser White, French-Red, Ross's Snow. More hawks. Green finch, green chain, grosbeak. Ground doves. Common, friendly, ruddy, white-throated. Gulls. Like seagulls. There's about 20 different species. Another falcon, hawks, hummingbirds. The imperial pigeon. That's why I said most pigeons, your common pigeon is fine. Kestrels, kingfisher birds, loons, the mallard duck and magpies, meadowlark birds, mockingbirds. So mockingbirds, even if it's bothering you, you need to leave them alone. Orioles, ospreys, any and all owls. Pelicans, petrels, peewee birds, here we go. Pigeons, band-tailed, plain, red-billed, scally-naped, white crown. Pond herons, puffins, pygmy owls, quail dove, railbirds, ravens, razorbills, reef egrets, reef herons, roadrunners. More owls, sea eagles, and one thing that is on the list, but I don't know if they have it named different, is blue jays and robins are also under this. Snipes, sparrows. I'm not going to read all of those. There's about 20. Again, you can look up this list on the U.S. Forest Service website. Just look up Migratory Bird Act of 1918. Spoonbill birds, storks, swallows, swans, the trumpeter, tundra, and whooper, turtle doves, black vultures and turkey vultures, water thrush, whimbrel birds, whistling duck, a widgeon, wood pewee, woodcock, woodpeckers are protected species. All wrens. Yeah, so that's, and again, like I said, there's 53 pages, so, and some of these birds are common all over the United States, and some aren't. The reason why eagles and hawks are listed on the Migratory Bird Act, even if they don't migrate, is they are a separate class of protection. There's actually the hawk and eagle thing where it has its own regulations for that. But there are people that have you can get special permits to hunt certain birds and collect their feathers like Native Americans and other people. And there are some species that obviously have open hunting season. Like different geese and ducks and doves and things like that. But one thing I'm going to look up are the pigeon species, just to make sure that the pigeons that I have in our barn are okay. I mean, because they leave feathers everywhere. I mean, I'm not saying that if you find a feather and keep it, that, you know, if somebody's going to come to your house and break down your door. But if you're selling things saying, oh, eagle feathers, this type of feather, then yeah, somebody might come and bust down your door. Okay, the pigeons that we have are rock dove pigeons. Which are not. Okay, so there we go. Yeah, the pigeons that we have are rock pigeons, which is also called the common pigeon, and the feathers aren't that big. They're maybe smaller than this, which, if you can see from my hand, not very big. So this is my little spiel about things and respecting ourselves, our craft, nature, and fellow man. Even though we are one of the worst species on the planet, but we still have to respect each other. All right, I will be back for more. Bye.